You are exhausted. Your eyes burn, your muscles ache, and all you want to do is absolutely nothing. So you finally lie down, close your eyes, and wait for the relief. But instead of resting, your heart beats a little faster, your jaw clenches, your brain starts running through a list of things you forgot to do 3 years ago. You are bone tired, but you cannot relax. You might think this is just a psychological quirk, a side effect of a busy week. But what is actually happening inside your body right now is far stranger and a lot more physical. Your brain has fundamentally rewired itself to view relaxation as a biological threat. To understand why your body is actively sabotaging your rest, you have to look past the psychological feeling of stress and zoom in on the physical architecture of your neurons. Right now, there is an invisible war happening inside your nervous system, and you are losing. When you experience a stressor, even a tiny one like an annoying email or a loud noise, a tiny almond-shaped structure deep inside your brain called the amygdala lights up. This is your biological alarm system. It immediately sends a distress signal to another part of your brain, the hypothalamus, which acts like a command center. The hypothalamus screams at your adrenal glands, which sit right on top of your kidneys, telling them to pump out a hormone called adrenaline. Suddenly, your heart rate increases, your blood pressure spikes, your breathing gets faster, pulling in more oxygen to send to your muscles. This is the fight or flight response. It is designed to save your life if you are being chased by a predator. But that wasn't even the weirdest part. The real danger comes from what happens next. Because if that stressor does not go away instantly, your body deploys its heavy artillery. It releases cortisol. Cortisol is your primary stress hormone. In short bursts, it is a lifesaver. It floods your bloodstream with glucose, giving you immediate energy to handle a crisis. It shuts down non-essential functions like digestion and reproduction, because when you are fighting for your life, you do not need to digest a sandwich. The problem is that your brain cannot tell the difference between a saber-toothed tiger and a looming project deadline. To your amygdala, they are the exact same threat. So in our modern world, where you are constantly bombarded with notifications, emails, and microstressors, your body never stops pumping cortisol. You are stuck in a chronic state of low-grade survival mode, and this constant flood of cortisol is highly toxic to your brain tissue. It is literally corrosive. Researchers at Rockefeller University spent years studying what happens to the brain under chronic stress. They focused on the hippocampus, the part of your brain responsible for learning, memory, and shutting off the stress response. What they discovered is terrifying. Under the constant assault of cortisol, the neurons in your hippocampus actually retract. Their branch-like extensions called dendrites shrivel up and shrink. Your brain cells are literally pulling away from each other, breaking their connections. This is why you experience brain fog. This is why you forget names and lose your keys when you are stressed. Your memory center is experiencing structural collapse. But more importantly, because the hippocampus is supposed to act as the brakes for your stress response, its shrinkage means you lose the neurological ability to calm down. The brakes are broken. The alarm is stuck on. We will get to the biological switch that can force this alarm off in a minute, but first you need to understand why trying to relax actually makes things worse. When you finally collapse onto the couch and stare at the ceiling, you think you are doing nothing. You think your brain is powering down. But your brain does not have an off switch. When you stop actively focusing on a task, your brain instantly shifts control over to a massive web of interconnected regions called the default mode network. The default mode network is what runs in the background when you daydream, when you think about the past, or when you worry about the future. In a healthy brain, this is where creativity and problem-solving happen. But in an exhausted, cortisol-soaked brain, the default mode network becomes a torture chamber. Because your amygdala is hyperactive and constantly scanning for threats, it hijacks the default mode network. Instead of pleasant daydreams, your idle mind is forced to ruminate on worst-case scenarios. You are no longer just lying on a couch. Biologically speaking, you are trapped in a simulation of everything that could possibly go wrong in your life. This is why doing nothing feels so exhausting. Your brain is burning through massive amounts of metabolic energy, depleting your cells of ATP, which is the fundamental currency of energy in your body. You are running a marathon while standing completely still. And it gets worse. Researchers at Yale University conducted advanced imaging studies on individuals dealing with chronic stress. They looked at the prefrontal cortex, the highly evolved front part of your brain responsible for logic, decision-making, and emotional regulation. This is the part of your brain that is supposed to step in and say, "Hey, we are safe on this couch. We can calm down." The Yale studies revealed that chronic stress actually causes a loss of gray matter volume in the prefrontal cortex. The very tissue you need to rationalize your fears and quiet your racing mind is being thinned out. The logical manager of your brain is being fired, and the panicked alarm system is taking full control of the building. So what do? You try to optimize your way out of it. You buy a smartwatch to track your sleep. You monitor your heart rate variability. You schedule exact windows for meditation and cold plunges. You turn relaxation into another high-stakes metric to be measured and conquered. But this creates a brutal biological paradox. By obsessing over your recovery scores, you are signaling to your amygdala that rest is a performance metric, and performance requires vigilance. You develop a condition known as orthosomnia, an unhealthy obsession with perfect sleep. Every time you check your wrist and see a low recovery score, your brain registers a failure. It pumps out another hit of cortisol. You are stressing yourself out about your inability to de-stress. You cannot think your way out of this trap. Your prefrontal cortex is too weak, and your amygdala is too strong. To break the cycle, you have to stop talking to your mind and start talking directly to your nervous system. You have to physically hijack the machinery. This is where the vagus nerve comes in. The vagus nerve is a massive information highway that runs from the base of your brain all the way down through your neck, your chest, and into your abdomen, touching almost every major internal organ along the way. It is the main control cable for your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest counterpart to your fight-or-flight mode. When you stimulate the vagus nerve, it releases a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine directly onto your heart, physically slowing down your heart rate. It forces your blood vessels to dilate, dropping your blood pressure. It is a biological override switch that bypasses your panicking brain entirely. But how do you press that switch? Researchers at Stanford University recently investigated the most efficient way to mechanically activate the vagus nerve in real time. They tested various methods of mindfulness and breathing, and they found one specific pattern that rapidly deflates the stress response faster than anything else. It is called the physiological sigh. The mechanism is startlingly simple, but its effect on your anatomy is profound. Inside your lungs, you have millions of tiny air sacs called alveoli. When you are stressed, your breathing becomes shallow, and many of these sacs collapse, trapping carbon dioxide in your bloodstream. Elevated carbon dioxide is a chemical trigger that tells your brain you are suffocating, which dumps even more panic-inducing noradrenaline into your system. The physiological sigh fixes this mechanical failure. It consists of 2 quick inhales through the nose, followed by a long, extended exhale through the mouth. That second sharp inhale is the crucial key. It forces those collapsed air sacs to pop back open, creating a massive surface area to offload the trapped carbon dioxide. Then, the long exhale mechanically compresses your heart cavity. Your brain detects this change in pressure and signals the vagus nerve to slow your heart rate down. You are not trying to think happy thoughts. You are pulling a physical lever inside your chest to drain the cortisol from your blood. When you do this just 2 or 3 times, the Stanford data shows a near instantaneous reduction in autonomic arousal. Your hippocampus stops shrinking. Your prefrontal cortex comes back online. Your amygdala powers down. The default mode network shifts from anxious rumination back to neutral idling. Relaxation is not something you can force by simply doing nothing. Because in a world designed to keep your alarm bells ringing 24 hours a day, doing nothing is actually an act of endurance. True rest requires an active intervention. You have to prove to your nervous system that the war is over. So the next time your eyes burn, your muscles ache, and you feel like you cannot turn your mind off, do not just lie there and wait for the relief. Take control of your biology. Because you are exhausted, your eyes burn, your muscles ache. But now, you can finally relax.